So I'm an absolute noob woodworker and I'm going to build a coffee table from scratch. Out of scrap wood I literally pulled from a dumpster. Why a coffee table? Well, I actually already have two, but they're ugly, wildly unstable, and honestly just terrible. And why scrap wood? Mainly because I'm broke, but also there's no better coffee table than the one you build yourself, so you can belittle yourself every day over the mistakes you made. Here I am, sorting out the good planks from the bad, arranging them and planning how to move forward, measuring and figuring out how wide the long table is going to be. I'm using two layers to get more strength because I'm fairly certain it would be too weak with just one layer. Here I use a circular saw. I also have an orbital sander, an old miter saw, and a few other smaller things we'll see later in the video. On the good side, I have to learn to think outside the box, think for myself and problem solve, which I love. On the negative side, well, that's obvious, isn't it? It makes everything simpler, nicer, and straighter. There's a nice little clip of me trying to problem solve, trying to work out how the orbital sander works. Here is my brilliant plan in action. Using the orbital sander as a way to flatten the planks, but also remove dirt and clean them before gluing them together. I have two speed clamps, but they are not long enough to take the entire board or all 6 planks in one go. So here I am testing without glue, 3 planks at a time, and my plan is to glue them together later. For that I need another solution, which I'm actually quite proud of. I'm just gonna show one half of the board glued together, the other half is the same. I found the normal clamp in the basement, and it's coming really handy when I'm going to glue this together now. Now for the first time, doubt starts setting in as I see the boards are not as plain as I would want them to be. Time to make the table stand while the other half mold is drying. I made a 3D model of the table first to visualize what the table would look like, both for me and for you. Can you spot my mistake before I realize it myself? 3D model took me about 3 hours to make, but I'm also a beginner in 3D software, which I'm learning for future projects. I'm also showing how I made the first foot, the second one is the same, just with less finesse. Not that interesting. Yeah, that's not... If you heard me in the background, that was me realizing that my way of cutting wasn't giving straight enough edges, which is why I pull out the miter saw. the Minotaur really needs a new blade. The last clip was bad, 900%. It's basically burning its way through and not cutting. You can even see the smoke. Now you can see my mistake. I connected the timber on the long side when I planned on using the short sides. But in the end I think it actually looked better because of my mistake. Some more doubt starts setting in here when I saw how wobbly it was. Turns out the pallet holes I drilled were too big, so the screws slipped inside the holes. So I figured I should just glue them together as well. Didn't film any of that though. Now you see my solution to not having long enough clamps, using straps to press them together. It worked pretty good, I gotta say. Now it's time to glue the upper board together to the underboard. And as you can see, I haven't glued the underboard together, as this project dragged out longer than I thought it would for such a simple table. I was keen to get it finished, so I took a shortcut here, and I obviously don't have enough clamps for each board, and definitely isn't gluing one per day, so I used my trusted bricks for weight here. At this point in time, I'm having big doubts, and you can really see the result of having crappy wood and not having the optimal tools to do the job. After about 2 to 3 hours of sanding, starting with 40 grit sandpaper to remove glue and imperfections, then moving on to 120 and then 240 grit for the last finish. I don't own a router, which is something I really want, but I found that just sanding the edges works wonders too. In the end, I started to like that the table gave off a natural vibe. This is an imperfect table, and therefore I kind of like the vibe of it. Now, will I use the table in my living room? I don't know yet. I like the top, but the stand feels too simple for me. I'll take it home. Yes, home. I've been doing this at my mom's garden and stable. And then I'll judge whether I use it or not. Now it's basically finished. Let's roll some amazing B-roll shot by myself.